Beautiful. Well, I appreciate you guys for being here today. This is our final meetup for 2020, which is exciting for so many reasons. Today's special guest, we have Katie, and Katie is a fitness and lifestyle influencer and content creator. So we're very excited to hear from her because she's going to help us dive into reflecting on the year and finding solace and peace before we move into the momentum of a new year. So I'm excited to hear about Katie's journey and what led her to create her vision, her company. Before we get started, I'd love to have Rachel introduce herself and Jonathan introduce himself as they're here to support the community.
I can start. Hi, everybody. I'm Rachel McCool from GoDaddy. I'm one of the community managers. I've been with the company over 5 years, and I manage right now our platform and some other community programs. Really thankful to Adam for leading our meetups this year. And I know Jonathan and I and other GoDaddy employees who have attended just continually feel inspired by all of you. So thank you, Adam, so much for your leadership. And thanks to all of our guests this year, just hearing your stories, and super excited to meet Katie and hear from Katie today. So anyways, I'll turn it over to Jonathan.
Yeah, I'm just as excited. Can't wait to hear more from you. My name's Jonathan. I work as an engagement manager at GoDaddy. So everything from chatting with some of our customers online to building engagement strategies for larger campaigns and working closely with our community team. And it's been such a wild year, but these meetups have been such a great sort of product of that.
Awesome. I appreciate you guys for being here. Katie, I'm so excited to hear from you because this year has been a marathon. I mean, it literally has been a marathon of endurance and strength and finding moments of serenity in between that. So Katie, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, about your company, and kind of how you got started on your journey?
I'll try to keep this short and sweet. So I was a college athlete. I majored in kinesiology, and when I graduated, I kind of ended up going into the corporate world, realized that was not for me. I actually got laid off during, oh my gosh, I don't even remember when that was. But I remember walking out of the building and being like, all right, like, what am I going to do with my life? And I realized that fitness and health and wellness was kind of my passion. So I ended up getting certified in yoga, personal training, and I started my own business. So for a while, I was basically going to people's homes, going to their businesses and training them online in places. I never had a studio. I never went that route. But then I started getting into blogging because I love to write, and it came naturally to me. So I started blogging, and then I really got burned out on personal training. As much as I loved it, and the money was great, my clients were great, but it was just, no joke. I was probably up at like 4:30 every morning, and my last client was probably at like 6 at night. And I had no life. I basically spent my time in the car and trying to recover from sleep. So it was weird the way things worked out, where all of a sudden I started getting companies reaching out to me that wanted me to do their social media. And I had no experience in that. I literally would just write blog posts. I would just post stuff. I had no idea. I'm like, God, okay, someone wants to hire me to talk about food, no problem. So then I kind of got out of personal training, went fully into social media, and I have managed companies all over the country, basically all health, all fitness. I've tried to manage people, and that's not so easy. I found that my niche is really healthy food companies. Food does not talk back to you. So it is like, people, it's hard to argue with pretty photos of food. So, so right now I manage my brand, and my personal brand is basically, I try to inspire others to live a healthy lifestyle through fitness, through food, through self-care, but also by still being able to enjoy life. So I'm not one of those crazy fitness health people where I'm like, no, you can't have cookies, no, you can't have wine, you can only do this kind of workout. Like, I'm fully all supportive, especially now, of like just doing you and figuring out what works for you. Like, we're all under a lot of stress right now, so just do what's going to make you feel good, not only inside but on the outside. So that's kind of me in a nutshell. I've lived all over the country, and I've been in Charleston for almost over 3 years now. Usually at 3 years, I get the itch where I'm like, oh my gosh, but I bought a place and I'm like, well, I'm kind of stuck here now. So it's good though. I love it down here. It's great.
Awesome. Awesome. Talk about rolling with the punches. Your story is fulfilling right now for a lot of us, because you got laid off and immediately decided, what do I want to do? And that's what so many of us do when we're backed into a corner. Is first we talk about our necessities. What do I have to do? And then we really get into the nitty gritty of like, but what do I really want to do? And you started down that journey with working with people individually, and you evolved into working with companies and building a brand around what you're passionate about. And I love that you were vulnerable enough to share that it wasn't easy to manage people. You know, you're obviously a success because we see you online, we see your brand, and we see all these companies you work with. But knowing that you also had those struggles and had to adapt and evolve and figure out a way that you could scale and make impact through your passion and your story is awesome. And then that last thing you said, you do you. I mean, that right now, that spoke to me. I don't know about everybody else on here, but that spoke to me, because this year's been anything but normal. It is impossible to really guess and figure out who's right, who's wrong, and what we should be doing. So really looking at what you can do for yourself and what's comfortable with the world. It's just tumultuous. There's no comfort right now outside. You have to do you and be comfortable.
Yep.
I love that.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much right now that, yeah, I don't know. There's so much that we have to do, that we should be doing, that we shouldn't be doing. And kind of I mean, there's so much right now that you have to do you, because not only I think physically, but also mentally and emotionally, because I know that I have seen so many people going through this year, and especially now at the end of the year with the holidays. I mean, a lot of people are going through depression, and it's scary. I mean, I see it even with my mom, who's up in New Jersey, and it's, you know, it's hard. It's hard right now. So like, I always tell people, and I tell myself every day, like, I'm grateful to live in South Carolina. Like, I'm grateful that there's lots of sunshine. I'm grateful that I can move my body and nourish my body. So I almost feel like not only like a personal trainer, but like almost like a health coach too, because I feel like I'm just constantly repeating myself. But we all need to do this, because if we don't, we're going to end up in a really dark hole. And a lot of people are there. So that's why I'm trying to be more of a bigger person to help others right now, even through social media, through this, just because you have to stay positive no matter what. So it's a lot. It's a lot. I mean, we all can't deny it. It's just a lot.
Yeah. And I've actually found, just to jump in quickly, I found that I've never had a more difficult or exhausting year working in social media.
Yeah.
It was such a hard, even just being exposed to everything in real time. I would find because it's, you know, you sometimes you just have like a hard day and like, you know, a lot's going on, but it was so, it was such a difficult year right now in particular to be on social. And I can imagine that must have been something that your clients were experiencing. I mean, you, certainly you, but yeah. I can imagine that was something that maybe you've seen in working with clients as well. And I'm wondering if that's something that you could speak to.
Yeah, I mean, I was working with a restaurant in California, and it's interesting because had some interviews with other clients lately, and they ask about scheduling. And they're like, well, what's your plan for scheduling with clients? I'm like, honestly, let's be real. You can't schedule anything in 2020 right now. All of a sudden, COVID hit, and then all of a sudden, the restaurants aren't allowed to do anything. And it was like this huge shift of chaos and just like, oh my God, like we're all like, what do we, where do we even start? So and that's like you said, like it's so stressful because nobody really knows what they're supposed to be doing, what they should be preparing for. One of my clients now, she's like, the shipping is so delayed. She's like, we just got to keep getting that word out. And it's like, oh my God, like when can we just get some good news? But it's funny because I'm so type A and I am like, I have my calendar and I have my list and I've kind of had to throw that like mentality out the window this year and just be very much more flexible and okay with things not going the way they're supposed to go. And I think also with my clients is that they're all kind of exhausted and they've put a lot of trust in me to create and just be like, just do what you can do, but it's a lot. I mean, their clients, I mean, this restaurant in California, I mean, it was unreal. Like they just literally had to totally shift their plan of attack. I mean, like all of a sudden they had to start raising money to build outdoor space. Like what? So it's a lot. It was a lot. It's like, I mean, it was like probably 2 or 3 weeks ago, speaking of how social media is like intense and stressful. I literally just like took a whole week off for my own personal brand because I'm like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
I'm like, it was almost like I literally woke up and I'm like, I am done. And when it starts calling me back and I feel inspired again, I'll do it. But that time away, and you see a lot more influencers doing that now because I think it just gets too much. You get wrapped up in it and it's exhausting.
And you get it's that balance of and thinking of even influencers and businesses for sure, but it's that balance of I need to be present on social. If I'm an influencer and I make my money on sponsorships, I have to be present. Like this is the space I have to be. But it's almost like when you work like you're working at a job that's really toxic and you're like, this is something I have to do, but I can't stand it here. And it's how I felt being on Instagram this whole year. It's like this is this really, really like important space right now. But I can imagine that a lot of influencers are sitting here just going, I can't be there. Like my business is on Instagram and I can't be there right now because it's so stressful. It's so stressful to be inundated, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, whatever it might be. It must be such an interesting, I'm just thinking of the way people are going to be framing this or thinking about this in years to come. Like when we have the ability to do a retrospective and really think about what are the effects that come about being as exposed to information as we were. What are the actual long-term effects of that? And it is just working in social media. I can't help but think about like the necessity of being on these spaces, but then looking and thinking like, to your point earlier about having a content calendar for the whole month of, May or June or July or whatever it might be, and just go, the whole point of posting on social is to provide value for people, right? To ultimately to provide value for me and the brand or the influencer, whatever it is, but it's to provide value for others because you're not going to follow me if I'm just trying to sell you something left, right, and center. But then something happens and the context of the world, the context of what's happening on social completely trivializes whatever you might be trying to say, whatever your goals might have been. And it is so wild to think about how fragile is I realize I'm rambling right now, but I also totally just like geek out about this kind of stuff. It's fragile is not the right word, because like Instagram didn't crumble, Facebook didn't crumble, these platforms are still around, but it's just so interesting now to think about the relationships people have with these platforms in a way that I never thought I'd have with technology. It's wild. It's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, one thing that I think, and Katie, you saying that you took the week off, there's a lot of pressure on being a persona, right? It's like there's perceptions that people get of you and who you are, and sometimes blows up into this like larger than life almost figure or character. And people sometimes forget that you're human, right? And you have emotions and you have struggles, and I think that and this happens with, you know, a lot of celebrities that are in the limelight every single day, that personal life, like when things start to crumble or people have challenges, and then all of a sudden it's like, you know, comes out in the news and people are shocked, like, oh my God, that person has, it's like, yeah, because they're human. And so I really love that you took time off to yourself, because if you can't be well yourself, then it's kind of hard to push out stuff on wellness to other people. But I think, you know, I love that you shared all of this with us about vulnerability, because I think that's super important as well, to just showcase that we all have struggles. Great example is like I have almost my entire life struggled with weight. And so people look at me because I'm thin and they're like, oh, well, you're thin, you know, you don't have, and it's like every day I struggle with that. And I'm happy to talk to people about that, and, you know, what I do every single day. But, you know, like, again, the perception, you can look at somebody and have a perception of somebody and not really understand what's going on with them.
Yeah.
So, you know, and then also taking a break from stuff. You know, the whole social thing, I think can be really grueling. And especially dealing with potential negativity on social, and kind of trying to rise above that and finding a balance. So I just love all that what you said. Also, with your background in college sports, I just saw a thing about college sports, them yanking a bunch of programs futuristically, and just kind of what that means for people who are really into, you know, fitness and sports, competing in sports and stuff, and giving that really good background for people to build upon and be well in their careers, you know, whatever career it is.
Oh, I think that I always tell people that playing a college sport was probably one of the best learning experiences in my life. It just taught me so much about discipline, teamwork, and I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, I would go back to those 4 years in a heartbeat. And it's really sad now to see what's happening to college sports, and a lot of these athletes aren't being able to play. And again, it's like nobody's talking about what this is doing to college athletes mentally. I mean, I know if I was a college athlete right now and my season was taken away, like I would be heartbroken. And I don't even think they really know how to, you know, handle that with kids. Like that's just another thing that's why like what's happening this year is so, it's scary and it's a lot. Is just, I think more, there's just this mental damage and scariness that, you know, is kind of not really being talked about, not only with athletes, but with young kids, and even, you know, like adults who are working from home now who aren't used to it. Like I've been working from home forever. So when this all happened, like I kind of just was able to just roll with it and I was used to it, but so many people like aren't.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Like GoDaddy has done such an amazing job. And like this, they employ me, but this is not sponsored. Like they've done such a great job of like offering desks to people who need to like just make their workspace at home something functional for them. But it really is. It's because I've leaned into it. I do enjoy just like being by myself, and I get a lot of work done when I don't have, because like the water cooler is a distraction for me. Like I am that person that's like, I'm gonna get a fourth cup of coffee today. Why not? It's just right over there. So there have been a lot of things I've learned, but to see everyone shift, and I've got to think that, you know, even going back to thinking about how you handled your restaurant client and the way that everyone has had to stay home and try and make this normal for them, is I can imagine that restaurants are now trying to think, okay, even when we do open full time, you know, even when we do get to the point where we have, you know, the ability to serve indoors, there's a whole community that's going to be home. They're still going to be home. They're still going to be working remote. Like, how do we cater to them? So we have to build in a delivery business now, or we have to figure out how to partner with these delivery people. And it like, there's so much is happening that we don't, and it's what you said again earlier about the sort of the trauma that's happening, is we don't have a blueprint. We don't get to look back at a time where something similar has happened and we had means of coping. Like I think the most recent one we have is 100 years ago, 100 some odd years ago. And we're learning about how to cope with it, as it's a trial by error thing. And it's a very, it's gonna make a huge impact for a long time to come. And it'll be interesting to see how industries fully lean into accommodating that change.
And I think like as a influencer, watching everything that's happening, and then I've done this for myself personally, I think it's kind of forcing us to go like back to the basics, where like for me, I mean, like I know when I'm starting to go down that like dark hole again. So I basically go back to the basics. Like I have not watched the news in a couple weeks. I don't listen to talk radio anymore. I read books. I like hardly watch TV. I mean, like it's just like I'm trying, since I'm on my phone and on the computer all day, like I try to really, you know, cut it off at 6 p.m. Like I make sure I get enough vitamin D. I make sure, you know, I'm socializing, like, because, and then eating good foods, but also like eating not so good foods. Like it's like back to the basics. Like I think it's forcing people, you know, like to go back when I was a kid, and my mom during the middle of summer would be like, you're not allowed to come back to the house until it's dark outside, like play outside in nature, you know? And you see a lot of influencers now, and people in general are outside so much more because they're almost like forced to.
That's so interesting. That's so interesting.
I mean,
You know,
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, getting back to the whole mental thing and the ramifications moving forward is really interesting. Some of us have, you know, parents, grandparents, great grandparents who went through World War II, and just like how they came out. And I think of that a lot, how they came out of that, and what they were like. And that generation was very stoic. Like they didn't talk a lot about their feelings, which I actually, you know, I had a great uncle and grandmother and stuff that came out of that generation. They didn't talk about their feelings at all. And I did not like that. Like I felt like they stuffed everything down. And I'm really hoping that that's not going to be ramifications from like this year. But I think for all of us, especially for like kids, right? It's like we need to help them to be able to express themselves and to be able to work through what this is. And what my hope is that everybody's going to come out of this much stronger. They're going to hopefully know themselves better, get past it, right? We just need to, we need to hang on and just get past it. And then look at like, what do we learn? And then how are we going to use that to move forward in what we're doing? And then the other thing, Katie, like your example about restaurant, pivoting, I think of like, I live in San Francisco. I think of one of my favorite restaurants here, which is, world class, and how they've actually closed down right now for a while. They were open for a while. They did outdoor seating, and then they just decided, like, we're going to close down. And I really hope that that's not it for them, right? Like, I hope that they're going to survive and come back and thrive. And so for you, like, going into next year, it's going to be really interesting to see what clients of yours actually do survive and thrive and what clients don't. But I have a lot of hope that people can hold on and just get through this. But like right now, we're in shutdown again, lockdown, and it's brutal. I mean, it's so brutal for so many small businesses.
Did you see that? So oh my gosh, if I'm on the couch and like I am watching TV, I'm either watching Food Network or the Cooking Channel.
Yes, Beef Bobby
like,
Flay.
Yes. I literally could watch diners and drive-ins like 24/7. Like, I don't know. I just like, there's something, it's just happy. Food is happy.
Xanax television.
Yes.
We call it Xanax television. Everything's okay when you're watching it.
Yes. So I thought it was so cool how Guy Fieri like raised, what was it, like 21.5 million?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, like, I was like, I saw the article this morning and I was like, that is so awesome. Like, he raised more money for these restaurants. It was like, I mean, good for him. I mean,
he's been doing it he's actually like an incredibly I didn't know this, but he is an incredibly philanthropic person and has done similar things for hurricane relief and fire relief. And you see the heroes show up.
Yeah.
You've seen these people really, really show up when quite frankly, other people aren't, like people who have the opportunity to possibly make things better for some people or make things easier. And then you have these people who do, they just go, well, I can help and here's how. And, you're so grateful to see that. And you just wish that, you wish there was just someone out there who was like, and I'll meet it, I'll double it. Like, but it's so cool to see stuff like that. I'm glad you brought that up because I was so happy to see that happen for that industry in particular. Because you just can't imagine. Oh my God, there's the bar that we love going to. I live in New York City. I'm up in Washington Heights. And there's a bar right around the corner from us that we love going to. And I know the owner, it's like this bar restaurant, and they're building this big outdoor space. And I was talking to her about how they were putting up, it was up there all fall, but when winter rolled around, they were finally like building a really official one. And I was like, oh, this looks great. And she goes, well, we hope we can keep it up. The commissioner was supposed to give us the information on this 4 days ago. And they also say that if we want to operate in the winter, we have to have this done in 2 weeks. So either we have to have this built and we're just going to hope that this is okay. We don't have the info. And you sit there and you just go, holy crap. How are these people supposed to navigate through this when they aren't even getting clear direction on what they're allowed to do? It's you can't wrap your head around it.
And I think like another really positive thing that has come out of this situation, at least for me here in Charleston and with my own personal brand, is that I have felt this motivation to really support local businesses. Like this, for example, tonight in a few hours, I'm going down to this neighborhood where there's like a bunch of cute little boutiques and a wine shop. And I have to do actually a project for GoDaddy. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go down there. I'm going to get some photos in the wine shop and, show my support for the small business, and the boutique, I'll put on some of their earrings. Like, it's this trickle effect that if that, I don't need them to pay me. Like, I just want to show support. Give me a free glass of wine and I'll wear the earrings. But it's like, there's so many awesome benefits. You're making human connection, you're supporting local business, and then you're putting it on social media for everyone to see. And if it creates just 1 or 2 sales, or just like they get a few followers, then that is, and I think, and especially in Charleston, you see that because, our restaurants are basically open, fully. And I mean, they're packed because I think people are just wanting these places to survive. So I think now, especially during the holidays, like it's really cool to, I mean, like I would typically during the season, like go on to like Lululemon or, you know, get something for my sisters on like one of the big websites. And now I'm like, I'm going to go down to the boutique and buy like a cute journal or an ornament or just anything to support them. So I think that that is a really positive, you're seeing this new passion to really support local, which I
Yeah.
think before this happened, you didn't see it because people were just like Amazon, Walmart, you know, all the big guys. And now you're like, oh, wait, restaurants like Guy Fieri, like that money is going to such good use.
Yeah.
Yeah, couple things, having grown up in a really small town, that's all community building as well, right? Like, especially when you live in cities, the tendency is that you might get to know people in your neighborhood, but it's kind of, it can be more challenging. And I think there's definitely a resurgence of people like getting to know their neighbors, people getting to know local shop owners and restaurateurs. And also, I think the small town, what I have hope, because I've seen small towns devastated throughout the US in the last like 20 years, where, you know, big, you know, everything goes to the outskirts of town and they're all big stores and all the little stores have gone out of business. So I'm really hoping for small towns that we see a resurgence of, you know, the town square, right? And the little shops and the restaurants and stuff, because that's the heart of our country. That's like where so much stuff was founded. And so it will be interesting to see like if there's a trend back towards that. So the challenge though is the price, being able to compete, you know, price wise, especially with the big box stores. That's challenging. But
I'm really glad that you touched on that, Rachel. The fact that people are moving back into trying to rediscover their community or engage, I feel
yeah,
that it is so purposeful and so intentional now that we've kind of removed that barrier of what's the ulterior motive, what do you really want. People are genuinely trying to connect and find their community. And we were talking earlier about how social media has kind of been this devil's advocate in that, and we find ourselves doom scrolling. But I have to give credit where credit's due. The community you built at Open We Stand, I will scroll through that daily and I just pick up little pieces here and there, and then I'll like see where the members are at and what they're doing, what they're engaging in. And Katie, your blog posts have been so fulfilling and so impactful. So at the end of the year, yeah, we could be doom scrolling, but if we find these communities and we have intention and we're engaging, it's nice to see that you're taking a moment to put stuff out there that might be for Katie, but really it's coming across as so important and so impactful for the people that aren't getting to see this stuff on a daily basis. So I have to appreciate you for that. And then the personal reflection. I mean, we get back to the end of the year here, and you're talking about mental well-being and health. This year's been crazy. One of the things we pride ourselves to clarify is the fact that we meet people where they are at, not where they've been or where they're going, because you can never tell whether or not somebody's past is going to impact the future or what the ulterior variables are. But what you've got right now is the availability to allow people to reflect on themselves and what they can handle and where they're going to be heading in a positive motion moving forward. And I think it's very important for people that, especially right now, going to the holidays and then the pressure of the new year and the goals, is to really, if you're going to reflect, remove the variables that you had no control over. If you set a huge goal at the beginning of the year and the pandemic influenced the outcome of that goal, you need to remove that variable because there was nothing that you could do unless you figured out some tangible way to pivot that would have gotten you to that goal. So it's okay to find solace in the fact that you weren't able to do that, but what did you do? And you were talking about being grateful, grateful for where you live and your brand and your abilities. I love that. I think that's so important.
Yeah, I mean, it's the little things. I mean, it's my boyfriend is a plumber and has his own business, and this is the busiest he's ever been in his entire life. And you know, I say to him pretty much now almost every day, I'm like, Shannon, I'm like, you are one of the few people in the world right now who are doing well, and you need to be grateful for your job and that you love it. I'm like, it's, I'm like, so many people aren't in your shoes. And it's, you know, the fact that I can, you know, wake up every day and do what I do is pretty amazing. But I, again, like, I love what I do, but like we talked about before, like when I need to take a break, I have to take a break because otherwise I'm not going to serve myself well and I'm not going to serve others.
Right.
And I think there is, though, now more respect. There's more respect for influencers when they take that time now because they're like, okay, they are human and they just need a break. And because then when it starts getting to that point, I realize as soon as I realize I'm posting content that like is so forced, I'm like, I'm done. I got to take a break. And then it comes back. But it's just like everything else. It's just like training your body or, you know, it's if you eat too much during the holidays, like you just all of a sudden you're like, yep, something's got to change. But
I love it. I think everybody needs an outlet when they have to figure out how to get through something that's just stressed them out or making them feel abrasive, whether it be a business, family life, or whatever. You mentioned going outside into nature earlier today. I go out and talk to my chickens. They don't mind if I use foul language about my day. So it's
I knew I needed to get chickens, Adam.
Yes.
they're wonderful because they'll put themselves away at night too, and they just keep giving gifts. It's
That's so awesome.
but I think it's important. I mean, people that are reflecting right now need to also have an outlet. If there's something that's really bothering them, like what you said, which is if you ate too much over Thanksgiving and you really let yourself down, find an outlet. Get back into the groove of personal fitness, yoga, walking in nature, reaching out to your local communities, even taking a stroll down that little community where they've got the boutiques and the wine shop. You know, park really far away and enjoy the neighborhood, enjoy the community. There's nothing.
I mean, like I had a girlfriend of mine who lives in Dallas. She does similar work that I do and she represents brands. And she messaged me on Instagram and she's like, Katie, she's like, my body's inflamed right now. Like I've been not eating well, drinking too much wine. And I'm like, all right. I'm like, what do you need me to do? Like, how can I help? And she's like, well, I know what I need to do. I just need to like get back into my routine. And I'm like, well, what's holding you back? I'm like, just do it. So now every day when she runs, she tags me in her Instagram story. And I'm like, hey, if that works for you and that holds yourself accountable, I'm like, then do it. And she's back like on the train. She's like, Katie, I signed up for classes. And I'm like, all right. So I think that's like a really cool thing too, is like, you just, you know, you got to do what's going to work and work for you.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting going into January because typically January is, you know, fitness and people. But I've always said that let's be realistic. Setting all these like massive goals for yourself of like, you know, I'm going to lose 50 pounds and I'm going to work out every single day and I'm going to, that's how people derail. It's like set small baby steps to get there and then it's not going to feel so overwhelming. And I don't know, like I said, I've been through my personal journey and I've tried lots of different things. And I love to, like, you know, Adam had pointed out, Katie, about you got to do what works for you and you got to figure out what that is. Because people can tell you lots of things to do, but if it's not working for you, then find something that does. And I think one of the things, you know, Adam, I love that you live in a place that you like in nature and stuff, like just freaking go outside and walk. Like that is so easy. It doesn't cost any money. Can, you know, do it for 20 minutes. And that can just help to clear your head and see what's around you. Like, you know, enjoy it.
I mean, like I am one of those people who I have never done New Year's resolutions. Like setting those goals does nothing for me. And I feel like people do that and it almost like sets them up for failure. Like,
Yeah.
how can you set those, even right now, like how can you set those goals? Like I'm going to do a marathon. Well, that marathon race may never happen. So like for me, what works is I do it one day at a time. Like at night, I typically write out my to-do list for the next day. And then I am able to cross everything off that I like I'm supposed to do. I mean, there's things on my list of whether like to go get gasoline or, you know, to write the new newsletter. Like it's everything from little things to bigger things, but I only do it day to day. And especially now, I think people need to just focus on the small daily success rather than be like disappointment. So I mean, I even write down my workouts. Like it just holds me accountable. I mean, and then it's you just got to keep it simple. I mean, people get way too wrapped up in like these big projects and these big goals, but you just got to keep it simple.
There's so much power in breaking it down, especially, I hate to sound cliche, but biting off more than you can chew, you know, with what you do. It's what a lot of us do. And it's so frustrating right now because everybody wants this year to end so badly. And we're almost already setting ourselves up for this great expectation of January 1st, things are just going to come to light, and they might not. And it's okay, but we have to break it down and do the day by day. I love that you do that way. And especially for me, I journal a lot. So when I go through self-reflection, I like to go back and read, you know, some of my stuff that I wrote throughout the year, day by day. And it's amazing how much we adapt and evolve and where we were emotionally and personally and fiscally. So I love that. I think that's powerful. I want to be respectful of everybody's time. I think we've gone a little bit over what we normally do, but Katie, I just appreciate you so much for being here today. And I love the conversation. Rachel and Jonathan, you guys have been such great supports in being reflective and sharing in Katie's journey. Katie, before we let you go, is there anywhere that maybe the followers of the Open We Stand movement can follow you and see some of your fitness, food, inspiration going through the end of the year?
So basically everything is my first and last name. So it's just Katie Uhran. My website is katieuhran.com. Instagram is Katie Uhran. Twitter, Facebook, all that jazz. So it's super simple. Again, simple.
Living the brand. I love it. I love it. Well, do you guys have any questions for Katie before we let her go?
Katie, thank you so much for your time, for your energy, for your inspiration, and, you know, being down to earth and real. Really, really appreciate that. Adam, I can't tell you how much we appreciate you. I appreciate you for leading these conversations and just being such a rock star. Thank you for your positivity. I know that, you know, you have your personal struggles as well, and you've just been so amazing. So thank you. Looking forward to 2021, and you guys, happy holidays.
Yeah. Have a great new year, you guys. It was so great to talk to you, Katie.
Yeah.
And Adam, thank you so much for for putting these together. I can't wait for the new year. And thank you. Yeah, my dog just woke up and he's ready to seize the day. So I got a little distracted, but thank you. I really appreciated this conversation.
I loved it. This was awesome. I could talk all day about this, literally.
Seriously, just like I could just gab about the social media and what it's doing to people all day until my computer dies.
Yeah.
All right, you guys, take care.
All right.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.